Welcome to the Generous Benefits Podcast, where we help employers create meaningful, people first benefits that make a real impact. I'm your host, Amanda Brummitt. Today's guest is Miranda Haggerty, founder of Haggerty Solutions. Miranda brings extensive expertise in HR consulting and workforce strategy with a passion for helping organizations strengthen employee retention and stabilize their teams. She provides leaders with practical, actionable tools to better support their people while protecting the bottom line. In this episode, Miranda will share insights every employer can put into practice right away to reduce turnover, increase engagement, and build more resilient workplaces. Well, Miranda, thank you so much for being here today. I know how busy you are, so I really appreciate you carving out some time to help us spread the word on stabilizing workforces.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, well, I gave a little bit of an intro about you earlier, but why don't you go ahead and just tell people in your own words, who are you personally and professionally?
Sure. So personally, I'm an Austinite. I think I can say that. I've been here about 13 years.
Oh, yeah, you're a local now.
So depends on who you ask, but
True.
yeah, so I've been here a while and I love to just spend time outside with my dogs, my partner, painting, all of that good stuff. Professionally, I'm a workforce consultant. I help healthcare leaders retain their staff so they can stop spending, so much time and money constantly replacing them.
Yeah, definitely. And then what about prior to your current role? What were you doing?
Before this, I studied at Texas State. I got my bachelor's in public health and psychology. I have an interesting mix of the tech side of things. So I worked at Indeed, where I managed their job requisitions. I worked on their healthcare campaigns during COVID to staff those frontline workers. And then I also worked for a staffing company with Google. So I managed the engineers on the Waymo teams for the self-driving
Oh,
cars that you see
yeah.
everywhere in Austin. So yeah, I did that. And then from there, I kind of shifted into senior care. So I landed in home care where I coached franchisees on how to recruit and retain caregivers.
Awesome. Oh, what a
Yeah.
broad experience. I can see how that all then translates really well into consulting.
Yeah, it's been a fun mix of things, absolutely.
Yeah. So I know workforce stabilization is one of the things you're really passionate about. How would you define that? And what does it look like in practice when companies get it right?
I define workforce stabilization as I'd say it means your business runs predictably and sustainably without burning out your team. So it doesn't mean that you have zero turnover, but it does mean that your retention rates meet or, exceed this industry benchmarks.
Mhm.
And it's a workforce that leaders can count on. So in practice, this looks like leaders who aren't having to scramble to fill in shifts or
Mhm.
scramble to get that new person hired. Their employees aren't endlessly exhausted, struggling with that turnover. Well, the turnover is inevitable, and we want it to be an anticipated level of turnover that is budgeted for, you're planning for, it's not last minute, everything, goes out the window kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So what we're all aiming for.
Yes.
Awesome. And then retention is a challenge that we hear about constantly from employers. From your perspective, what are the biggest factors driving employee turnover today?
I'd say the biggest factor is just the general disconnect between what employees expect and what employers deliver.
Yeah.
And it shows up in four main areas. The first is pay.
Mhm.
We have a multi-generational workforce, and those expectations vary widely. So we might see the younger generations that are pushing for higher wages and faster growth. And the older generations want more of that stability, and they're focused more on things that are gonna aid them in their retirement plans.
Mhm.
The second is benefits. Many organizations are still not keeping pace with what employees expect there, and
Mm,
for many job seekers, that's a deal breaker, before they even get in the door. They want those benefits.
right.
And then last is trust, and that's a big one. That trust goes both ways. So, when it breaks down when leadership is not transparent, and that could just be maybe leadership hasn't taken the time to explain something. It's not that they're hiding it, they just haven't explained it or they haven't explained it well. And it also takes a hit when employees quit, kind of out of nowhere, because then the team stays behind and they're all questioning the stability of that workplace. And it all just impacts culture and just kind of it breaks it all down.
Right. Yeah, it's always a little unsettling when somebody on the team is fired or leaves by choice if you're not expecting it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really there's a big hit on morale because if people don't know or weren't expecting it, then everybody's just guessing why and everybody's talking about it. And then you're thinking of, well, maybe it's time for me. This one thing's been bugging me. And it kind of has that spiral effect. So yeah, it really hurts teams quite a bit.
Yeah. So for leaders who feel like they're always reacting to resignations or staffing
Mhm.
shortages, what's the step or what's a step that they can take to get ahead of that curve?
I'd say the number one thing, if you feel like you're always reacting to people quitting and to high turnover, is to start listening in a way that your employees actually trust. What I mean by that really is just conducting those anonymous surveys and anonymous interviews for your existing staff. Also, doing exit interviews can help, but generally using a third party is the only way that your employees are really going to trust you. We've all had that confidential satisfaction survey that most people know is not confidential, and there are some poor souls that didn't know that.
Yeah.
And
I've experienced that. I worked at a company where the ethics line reports went to the CEO. Lots of people made confidential ethics reports, and they were about the very person they went to.
oh, yeah. I mean, we hear those stories and it's like, oh gosh, it's so painful to even hear about. And it's gonna well, not to go on a tangent, but it's like, oh man, those are the people that really trusted this survey.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking, but anyway. But yeah, that's the thing. When employees actually feel that their feedback is safe, they're gonna tell you things. They're gonna give you that honest, meaningful feedback, and you're it's really gonna be valuable. And you might find often what you'll find is there's gonna be some consistencies from what you've heard or expected, but you might find those small deal breakers that are the things that are actually pushing people to quit. Like, what are those last straws, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. Most definitely. Yeah. What about one-on-one interviews? Do you find value in those if there is trust?
If there's trust, absolutely, especially from your direct managers, building that trust and making sure that your employees know that that is safe with you. But yeah, that's huge, and that can not only does that create that outlet for employees to share that feedback, but it also improves the culture all around because they know, "Oh, this thing's driving me nuts, but I don't have to keep it bottled in. I can just tell my manager, and they're probably rooting for me."
What about if we're looking at retention and you had to pick just one strategy that works across industries, what would that be?
I'd say what works across industries is pretty similar, but it's I call it ask and act.
Mhm.
So, asking for that feedback with your employees. Sometimes and this isn't anonymous, it could look like just having a meeting where everybody, writes down what's working well and what isn't, and then you act on that feedback. You tell them what you heard, and you tell them what your plan is to improve it if you can. If you can't, you tell them why. You explain that to them. So that way they have an understanding and you're not letting that resentment build, you're creating that good communication just like you would in any other long-term relationship, right? If we want our employees to stay long-term, we need to start communicating like it's a long-term relationship.
Definitely. And then how do they do that communication, especially if the information came in anonymously? Do they do a town hall? Do they send out an email?
It depends on the size of the organization.
Mhm.
If it's a larger organization, it's best to use different communication channels just to make sure everybody sees it. So it could look like doing all of that, the town hall, send out an email, making sure that managers communicate that with their team, just to make sure everybody gets the message. If it's a smaller team, the more intimate you can get with that, the better. So
Yeah.
having a meeting, having that follow-up email, just making sure that everybody knows that they were
Yeah.
heard.
Right. Thinking about really big organizations, when you said passing it along to the managers to pass along, it sparked this question for me.
Mhm.
What do you think about scripting that communication or at least like having talking points around it? Or would you rather people just speak authentically about it?
I think scripting can be valuable, to make sure that the all of the teams are getting the same message.
Mm,
So that consistency, I think, can really help build that trust and make sure that everybody has a clear understanding. It's really easy for things to get lost in translation. So, yeah, I'm all for scripting to make sure that everybody has a clear understanding of what's happening and why it's happening.
yeah, that makes sense. And then how do benefits culture and leadership intersect when it comes to keeping people engaged and wanting to stay working there?
Yeah, it's all related, which we know, the culture has it's a big umbrella. I'd say leadership sets the tone and culture is the proof. So, employees, they notice when leadership communicates appreciation and actually follows through with their actions, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to say, "Oh, you guys are doing a great job. Okay, now get back to it." Like
Yeah.
there's got to be some authenticity there, whether it's small gestures, but that consistency and recognition matters. And benefits reinforce that message by showing employees that they're valued and that they're taken care of. So, something I've seen quite a bit is there is a heavy focus in a lot of industries on recruitment and employer branding and employer reputation.
Mm,
So, in terms of recruitment, it's all, they talk about the culture, the website looks great, the job ad says we're the best culture, all of these things. We really take care of our employees. And then they have no benefits and low pay or whatever it is, and it's like, okay, well, that fell flat pretty quickly, and we can see it
yeah.
even just in the job ad. So it's that way of showing that you are taking care of them and putting those words into action.
Yeah. It seems to me that would be really harmful to put out this beautiful narrative about the company and then not follow through. It'd actually be better just to be honest.
It's yeah, or less is more. Just don't even, just say, "This is the job." But
Yeah.
yeah, but what's really tough about that too is it's so common, and then the turnover is so high because not only is it getting all of these people excited to come into the role, but then within a month or 2, that reality hits and they're looking for something else, and now they're filtering those job ads to find somewhere that does offer benefits or that does they know what to look for now. So, it's it's a very exhausting cycle for the job seeker and the employer.
Yeah, most definitely. And I can certainly see that happening with the younger generations that don't feel an obligation to stay at a company for a decade. That like where I would have been super nervous about a 2 or 3 month job on my resume, I think most 20-year-olds today don't even think about that.
Oh, they don't. I've seen even, there's so many nurse groups and, healthcare workers groups, and I've seen quite a few younger employees asking, "Hey, is it is it bad if I quit during my orientation week? Yeah. So
Wow.
it's people are if it's not working for them, the younger generation is out of there. And that's for just different expectations too. I think employee loyalty means different things to different generations. And I think for the younger generations, employees are as loyal to their employer as they feel their employer is to them.
Yeah, which is fair. They're probably actually doing it the right way.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on a tangent there, but I'm not gonna.
What Because benefits are obviously of particular interest to generous benefits, are there any particular benefits there that you see people are looking for more so?
Number 1, I'd say is definitely medical insurance.
Mhm.
That's the big one just for everybody because everybody needs it.
Sure.
So I'd say that's a big one. And then also, people really wanna make sure that they have PTO and they're able to take those breaks. Once again, going back to those generational differences, younger people they are going to take their PTO and they're going to go on that trip and live their best life, and they're not gonna put anything on hold for it. So they wanna be able to be taken care of and to have that balance.
Mhm. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, we all need time to recharge and get away so that we can come back and give 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Miranda, this has all been amazing insight. Are there any last pearls of wisdom you'd want to leave our audience with?
I would say one thing that is important to keep in mind, if you are struggling with high turnover, going back to those anonymous surveys or those anonymous interviews, do the interviews, figure out what's going on, but don't be afraid to do it. What you uncover oftentimes is something that's just small and it's a simple fix.
Mhm.
And it's not something that you ever would have known about. It could be something that is a super easy fix, changing a schedule slightly or providing better snacks in the break room that are, more accessible, whatever that is. And that could be the difference between like a 20% increase in retention. It's not always something big and scary. Sometimes it is, but not always. So figure out what's going on, talk to your employees, and it's really going to make all the difference.
Awesome. And then one last thing before we wrap up, can you tell our audience about the anonymous series that you're working on so they can go follow you and learn from it?
Yes. So I just started a series where I am conducting completely anonymous interviews with healthcare workers. These are not employees of my clients. These are just healthcare workers that I meet as I'm out and about, people within my network, and I'm asking them what is working and what isn't. What are those deal breakers? What made you leave your last workplace? What could your employers do better? And then I'm posting that anonymous feedback and sharing that on LinkedIn.
Okay, fabulous. So I will link to your LinkedIn and everybody go follow Miranda so you get all the scoop.
Thank you.
Well, Miranda, thank you for your time. Thank you for your passion and for all of these actionable insights that literally people could implement tomorrow. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
A huge thanks to Miranda Haggerty for joining us today and sharing her expertise on employee retention and workforce stabilization. Her insights remind us that while turnover is costly, employers can take intentional steps to build stability, loyalty, and stronger teams. Thanks for tuning in to the Generous Benefits Podcast. We'll see you next time as we continue helping employers design benefits that truly make a difference.